Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading an Arlecchino Listener by me. So let's get into it. The cold winds of Snezhnaya bite into your skin as you step into the grand hall of your home. It's late, later than you'd hoped, and the chill of the night has settled deep into your bones. You're exhausted, every muscle aching from the mission you've just returned from. Your mind is numb with fatigue. Your body is a patchwork of bruises and cuts hidden beneath layers of clothing. You tell yourself you can make it to your room without disturbing anyone, without causing a scene, and it's a foolish thought, you know, but one you cling to nonetheless. You're barely inside when you hear the quiet, measured footsteps echoing down the corridor. There's no mistaking who it is. Even before you see her, you feel her presence. A mixture of strength and authority that's impossible to ignore. Arlecchino. You try to straighten your posture, but the pain in your side forces you to wince. The sound of her approach grows closer, and you brace yourself, hoping you don't look as battered as you feel. When she rounds the corner, her eyes find you instantly, sharp and assessing. The usual icy veneer she wears does not falter, but you see the subtle shift in her gaze as she takes in your appearance. "Where have you been?" she asks, her voice steady, controlled. There is an undercurrent of concern there, just beneath the surface, but you're too tired to dwell on it. There was a mission," you begin, your voice rasping from the cold and the strain of the night. "It took longer than expected." She steps closer, her gaze never leaving yours. "And what exactly happened during this mission?" "Nothing I can't handle," you say, forcing a smile that does not reach your eyes. "It's fine. I'm fine." Her eyes narrow, and in a fluid motion, she closes the remaining distance between you. Before you can react, her hand is on your shoulder, and she's guiding you out of the hallway, down towards your private quarters. You try to protest, but the words catch in your throat as you're overwhelmed by exhaustion and the sharp pain in your side. The warmth of her hand, so steady and certain, is a stark contrast to the cold that seeped into your bones. "Arlecchino, I can manage." "You will let me take care of this," she interrupts, her tone leaving no room for arguments. "Or do you wish to test my patience tonight?" You know better than to argue with her, especially now when you're barely standing. She leads you into her chambers, the door closing behind you with a soft click that echoes in the silence. The room is dimly lit, the soft glow of candles casting long shadows on the walls. The familiar scent of her, something crisp and cold like winter itself, wraps around you, grounding you. She guides you to the edge of her bed, her hands uncharacteristically gentle as she eases you down. "Take off your coat," she instructs, her voice losing some of its earlier edge. You hesitate, but the look she gives you brooks no defiance. Slowly, you begin to undo the buttons, the simple task made difficult by the stiffness in your hands and the throbbing pain in your ribs. Arlecchino watches you with a keen eye, and when you struggle, she wordlessly reaches out, her fingers deftly undoing the buttons with practiced ease. And as she pulls the coat from your shoulders, the layers beneath are revealed, torn, bloodied, bruised. Her gaze hardens as she takes in the full extent of your injuries, but she says nothing, her expression unreadable. You can see the tension in her jaw, the subtle tightening of her grip, as she carefully pushes the fabric aside to reveal the bruises marring your skin. "This isn't fine," she finally says, her voice low and controlled. though you can hear the simmering anger beneath her words. I've had worse, you say, trying to downplay the severity of your condition. But you can't ignore the way her touch lingers on the worst of your injuries, her fingers brushing over the deep, dark bruises that stand out starkly against your skin. She lets out a breath, long and slow, as if trying to rein in her emotions. You pushed yourself too far, she murmurs, not quite to you, but to herself, as if she's trying to make sense of something she can't quite control. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. This is part of the job. Arlecchino's eyes flashed with something. Anger, frustration, worry, a mix of all three. Your job is not to destroy yourself. Your life is worth more than any mission. She counters, her voice sharp, and you look at her, caught off guard by the intensity of her words. There's something raw in her expression now, a vulnerability she rarely shows. It makes you realize just how much she cares about you, how much she doesn't want you to get hurt, and how deeply this affects her. I'm sorry, you say quietly, guilt tugging at you. I didn't mean to worry you. She doesn't respond immediately, instead focusing on gently tending to your injuries. She moves with a practiced efficiency, cleaning the cuts, applying ointment to the bruises, and despite her earlier anger, her touch remains careful, almost tender, as if she is afraid of causing you any more pain. I don't want your apologies, she finally says, her voice softer now, more measured. I want you to be careful. You're too important to me to lose. The admission, so quietly spoken, sends a warmth through your chest that has nothing to do with the fire crackling on the hearth. You watch her as she works, watching the way her brow fars slightly as she concentrates. And you reach out, placing your hand over hers, halting her movements. Arlecchino, I'll be more careful. I promise. See that you do, she says, her tone regaining some of its earlier authority. But there is a warmth there too, a tenderness that's reserved for moments like this. And when she's done, she rises, moving to go away and put away the medical supplies. But you don't let go of her hand. Stay with me, you ask, the words slipping out of you before you could stop them. And for a moment, she says nothing, her expression unreadable. Then she gives a small nod, her hand tightening around yours. I'm not going anywhere, she says, sitting down beside you, the bed dipping under her weight, and you lean into her. Her arm wraps around you, pulling you close, her warmth seeping into you, easing the lingering pain. The two of you sit in silence, the only sounds the crackling fire and the steady rhythm of your breathing, the world outside fading away. You're too stubborn for your own good, she murmurs, her lips brushing against the top of your head. And you chuckle softly. I could say the same about you. Perhaps, but that's what makes us work, is it not? Maybe. Or maybe it's just that we're too stubborn to give up on each other, you say. And as the night wears on, your exhaustion finally catches up with you, and you can feel your eyes growing heavier. Arlecchino shifts slightly, guiding you to lie down, her movements gentle and careful. She settles beside you, her body a warm, reassuring presence against yours. Sleep, she murmurs, her voice low and soothing. You're safe here, and you don't need to be told twice. You let your eyes close, the steady rhythm of her breathing, lulling you into a deep, peaceful sleep. And even as you drift off, you feel her beside you, her hand resting lightly on yours, a silent promise that she'll be right there for you when you wake up.